Hello, everybody, and welcome. It is really, really good to have you here, wherever you're joining from in the world. As you arrive, please feel free to drop your name, where you're joining from in the chat, and maybe a few words about what alternative ways of being means to you. As we begin, you'll see a quick poll pop up on your screen shortly. We'd love to know, are you joining us as a youth, an elder, or somewhere in between? No pressure to define that too strictly. Some of us are elders in wisdom and youth in energy, sometimes all in the same day. But yes. But before I get carried away, let me introduce myself. I am your facilitator for this session, your host. My name is Dzomo Rakgwadi, or Makhadzi, but as friends you can call me Dzomo. And really, really, truly honored to have you all here. Awesome. So today we're gathering around a simple and yet but powerful question. What does it mean to live differently and well and in the world as it is today? Across the world, people are already responding to this question in a deeply practical and creative way. In Kenya, for example, we've got communities that are reviving Harambee, a collective pooling of resources to support each other through food, education, and local resilience. Or in India, where you've got urban youth building zero-waste lifestyles, sharing, repairing, and reusing more than they consume. Or in Brazil, where you've got community kitchens that are turning surplus food into shared meals, reducing waste while strengthening the connection of humanity. And across South Africa, where I am based, and beyond, young people are returning to our land-based practices. We're growing our food, we're saving seeds, and relearning ways of living that are slower, more relational, and that are rooted in place. These are not perfect solutions. They're often small, sometimes messy, and shaped by real constraints. But they remind us that change is already happening in homes, in communities, and in our everyday choices. This session is part of Green Action Week's youth program, where we're creating space to pause, reflect, and learn from each other across generations, across experiences, and across contexts. Today's conversation brings together youth and elders, not to agree on one way forward, but for us to be able to share in perspectives, to question assumptions that we may hold or others may hold, and explore what becomes possible when we listen across difference. So before we begin, just a few gentle agreements to hold this space. So we ask that we all show up here in respect, that everybody's voice, everybody's perspective is valid. We all have our own experiences, and let's show up in honor of that. We also ask that you stay curious, that we come with curiosity, not certainty or judgment, because there's so many things that we can learn from the world's unexplored in our own reality. And lastly, for us to be able to allow space for honesty and lived experience, even if it is imperfect. So with that said, I'd like to first welcome Sarah Nilsson, who is an incredible champion of the Green Action Week campaign. It's been an honor to work with her over the last few years, and she will give us a little framing as to what brings us all here today. So over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Dzomo, and I'm so really excited to be here today and honored to also welcome you to this session, this extremely important and exciting session. I'm so much looking forward, and greetings from Sweden, and welcome to join me in my Swedish forest. I am, as Dzomo already said, I'm Sarah Nilsson. I am a coordinator for Green Action Week at Swedish Society for Nature Conservation, SSNC, and together with Consumers International, we coordinate this global campaign. And actually, I can't wait for the program to start, but I also want to take this opportunity to share a few words about Green Action Week, what it is, since you might be new to Green Action Week, and then I want you to know that you are all very welcome to join. And Green Action Week is a global campaign, an annual campaign that promotes sustainable consumption through the power of community, through sharing communities. And it's each year, it's annual. So it's around October every year, and we peak on the first week of October. And organizations come together and takes practical steps towards sustainable consumption, sustainable lifestyles, stronger communities, healthier environments. And it's about real actions, it's about real collaboration, it's about strong collaborations and actions. It's about coming together, sharing, caring, learning from each other and by each other. And together we form what we call a community of practice. And we share experience, knowledge, and learning in various forms during the years. And all these campaigns, they are in, as I said, they are in various forms, and they show really their creativity around the world. They show the diversity of different contexts and people joining, coming together. It's joy, it's serious, because what we're talking about is, of course, real problems, and it's about real solutions. As I just said, Chiamo, change is already here, and you are more than welcome to join the Green Action Week and be part of this global movement for change. And there's a website where you can learn more about what Green Action Week is, and you're more than welcome to contact us in the coordination team. We can write our email addresses in the chat. And by this, the program can start. So I want to hand over to you, Chiamo, and also, of course, thank you for the wonderful welcome.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I have to say, the amazing work of Green Action Week and the incredible champions literally all around the world are such a beautiful example of exactly what brings us here today. We've got people, as I mentioned, with practical experience who are doing it and doing it together. And it's really, really exciting for us to continue on in this way. So it is time for us to hear from an elder. Very, very honored to introduce Makhadzi Mphatheleni, who is an incredible and experienced Indigenous knowledge programs facilitator, wisdom holder, incredible divine feminine, a matriarch who works closely with communities to nurture deeper relationships with people, the land, and our living systems. Her work is rooted in activating ancient wisdom as a pathway towards environmental stewardship, collective healing, and cultural renewal. So without further ado, I'd like to please hand over to Makhadzi. Makhadzi.
These are women is our strongest step when working. Kiamo Wananga Gel Makhadzi. Before I speak, the clips does not last for more than 2 minutes. I will request one of them to play, then I will come in, especially the one which is the first one.
All right, we will just, is this the?
Yes.
Vuani ni dobe rusiero. Wadoba rusiero. Veri kumbani miora. Nise shuturuni. Dodoba chidongo. Lidongo loke ruao. Wakumba kana demba. Utezu usapisi. Uchipitari do kumbaga chidongo. Kariyo kwa tiao. Raya waisa shuturuni. Wavuya. Veri siera ni muta. Wasiera. Nurindi chikoro chinena tufundwani kadiwa mutuku sikani chitanya.
Hello lingwa ifiwa danalo. Shuturuni. Ndimini zozo.
Shuturuni ndipetu ne koronu ne ratupa ne miora. Mfidari dareni. Tupa nge kashuturu. Nibalo yetu ange yola koronu.
Shuturu.
Yezi no bali uhuru elia shuturu. Ri wajwa ma demba ne abatu bachikumba. Bachitupa tsumuni. Ndimze elia shuturu lo maru.
Abadofa chikolo chasho cha Mupo.
So tuwa.
Richi doto amburi shuturu tebe bulili. Bana bako zidibe tuzaluambo lwashu lwa udipa.
Abazivi ngauri no richi vuanga macholoni. Mwana usokova. Chikolo. To zisala ushishuma uchikochirusela na ndizochuka. Ano diva udoba mopo akoropa, adivu sura. Tawo koropa no pumula ditafu.
Hai, wabuya ninga mifululu buya nino tewa makuluku kuri kuje. Wabuya, wo makulukuku. Thank you. Ndolibuwa, rialibuwa. To live a sustainable, healthy ways, yes, the green action need us, elder than me, elders on my time, and younger generation. There is no way where the leaves can claim that I will become green without the roots, without the stem. And the roots are underground. In simple, to live well sustainability, it needs us to create practical solutions that transform challenges into communities. And the roots, who are the elders, are the one who should equip younger generation. And in all corners of the world, Mupo, the creation of all natural, has given us our rooted language, which explains everything to bring ethics, which make us to live in harmony with nature. We cannot depend on the academic only, the library, the book, the social media. It is time to pause the far away distance from the practicality. In Mupo, as the elder was explaining, a young person when growing up to different ages, they will be communicating with you by the local language and not directing you and instructing you. They will be communicating with action, practical. When they are harvesting, you will know, you will run after them and go there. And what they are doing, you will be. You observe and try. Like a vendor, little girl, learning to sweep by this hand broom which you bend and walk with the broom. There is no classroom or book where you have to study about how many steps do you take to sweep. Like in Venda, we are establishing a Mupo school, which is a practical solution to transform challenges into opportunities. We are eco-constructing by that thing which I'm holding, chikupo, a wooden plastering which compress the soil. And the elders are doing it, and the younger generation and the mothers and the parents who are younger than me, they go there and observe and feel attracted to hold chikupo and start clapping. Lastly, can we play the last one for Chikupo, where we are beating the floor? Please. The indigenous knowledge is long from backward far from Woma Kurukoko. Ignore the lavender language. The indigenous knowledge is learned very, very far back away from Woma Kurukoko. Woma Kurukoko are ancestors. They were the best library, which cannot burn, but it needs you, you are present. And this knowledge transferred to our grandparents, our mothers, all our grannies, all, and now is with us. Not only elders, you young people, you are reading about it, you are doing research about it in university. At school, they are teaching it in primary school. I have a 13-year-old son. He came back with a homework of indigenous knowledge. but that connects with the learning area of life orientation. The ancestors got this knowledge from Mupo and through Womakulukuku, and whatever we need to bring the sustainable, healthy life is to go back to Womakulukuku and understand Mupo. Come and learn about Mupo. Ask about what is Mupo. Connect with Mupo. Sing Mupo. Womakulukuku will enrich you with knowledge.
Ngalebuwa Makhadzi. That's incredible. We thank you, Makhadzi. That is exactly the beautiful embodiment of our ancient wisdom inspiring the way forward. And as we continue to build Mupo and all this ancestral wisdom is so, so important to carry with us in the work we do. So we give thanks, Makhadzi. Yeah. Thank you. Incredible. All right. Wow, what an opening. And for the essence of time, I'm going to jump straight to the next speaker. I'd love to welcome Alana Mooi to the room. We thank you so much for joining us all the way from Mexico. Alana is a cultural ecologist, a storyteller, a systems strategist working at the intersection of land, culture, and community well-being. And her work focuses on strengthening connections between people, place, and all the systems that sustain life. Alana, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kiamo, and the Green Action Week team for having me be part of this conversation. I'm honored to speak after Elder Makhadzi, and I apologize if I said that wrong. English is not my first language. But yeah, I was very inspired when Kiamo shared some of the questions for this conversation, because as a young woman wanting to live a more sustainable life, it has really led me to wonder, like, alternative in the context of where. I think there are so many different ways that we get to live around the world. And when we get to be in dialogue in these spaces, coming together from different parts of the world, different lifestyles, different routines, and really bringing back this concept of sustainability in the seemingly small day-to-day interactions that we have. That's been one of the most powerful realizations in my career, that alternative or sustainable is not this abstract concept that exists outside of our day-to-day. It really can be embedded into the way that we wake up, the way that we prepare our food, the way that we connect with each other. And in these spaces or other spaces where we get to sit in intergenerational dialogue, it's when that really has come to life for me, in seeing the tradition and the ways of life that many elders still carry and embody, and the risk of that being lost if the younger generations don't get to integrate that and learn from that and then innovate to continue that path that has been laid down and has been in movement for thousands of years. So what that brings up for me is this question of what is sustainability, and why is it suddenly a choice that or a moral decision that some of us get to buy into or to choose into, as opposed to something that we get to belong to, something that we get to be part of in the communities where we live. And these communities can be ecological, it can be our neighbors, it can be our family members, and to really start seeing ourselves as relatives to the land. So that has really become alive in seeing some of the ways that my grandmothers or aunties weren't choosing to be sustainable in how they lived. They were just cooking with what was available, making sure that we used all of the food that we had to feed our family and the communities. And it just made sense. It was just the way that they live. So I think for us young people, being reminded that we can lean on our elders and learn from them and have that exchange where we get to be curious grandchildren, and let the tradition and the wisdom inform how we want to show up today and create something new from that. I think that can be really powerful to remind us that we're not alone in this, that we haven't only inherited this massive challenge, but that there's also a big blueprint and a big network and community of people that are all ages, that are from all backgrounds, that have a lot of really valuable information and spirit to be alongside us to create a world where we are excited to live in, where we can be together and share with each other what works in one place, what works in another place, and let that tension between tradition and innovation be a place where we can imagine something new, where we can create something new, and be together in that. I think we need a lot more of these spaces where different generations can come together. And I'm so happy to get to have these digitally. And nowadays, I think that's a beautiful example of what innovation can look like, just to be sitting in this space with people from all over the world, and to really invite that back into our daily lives. I think it can sometimes be seen as like it's unproductive to be in the same space with a young child or a grandparent, where that's going to slow down our life, our productive life. But it really is in those spaces where we are reminded of the differences that we need to have more diverse ideas, to be inspired, to take care of each other, and see the value in what makes us different, so that we can bring back together the ecology and the intergenerational social part of the conversation. So I'll stop there, but just very, very grateful to sit in this space alongside you all.
Thank you so much, Alana. I love what you said about us being curious grandchildren and how that even weaves with what Makhadzi is mentioning about just the power of our knowledge, and thinking to the fact that culturally, from the land I'm from, our oral tradition was currency. That is how the knowledge got passed down from elders to youth. And as curious grandchildren, we would listen and let that help us understand and navigate our environment, the world we're living, and ourselves. So I thank you so much, Alana. Amazing. All right. So next we have an elder again. I'd love to please welcome Aubrey Yee, who is joining us all the way from Hawaii. It's about 5:30 a.m. for her. So we're so grateful. We're truly so grateful. Aubrey is a mythopoetic futurist, a cultural strategist, and a systems change facilitator dedicated to co-creating regenerative, life-centric futures. Her work brings together ecological restoration, cultural renewal, and deep systems thinking, inviting us to imagine what futures rooted in care, reciprocity, and interconnectedness can look like and feel like as an embodied experience. So I'll hand over to you, Aubrey. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiamo. I can't think of a better way to start my day. Appreciate being here with you all. I love everything that's been shared so far, so I'll touch a little bit in on some of the points that both Alana and Makhadzi made that were just amazing, and feed into what I want to share, which is really, when I was thinking about this question of alternative living, I really sat with the word alternative. And I was thinking about how in my work in my life for a long time, I used to think about, issues and how do I deal with this one and that one. And it feels like everything's coming at us all the time. And when I started to realize that there was an operating system that sort of sat beneath it all in the subterranean realms of what we call modernity, Western dominant culture, that really helped me to understand that, there's something else that wants to emerge that's been touched on by both Alana and Makhadzi, and I think all of us here are living with. So when we think about the dominant Western culture that's sort of taken over the global way of thinking and being, it's based in these operating modes that are, separation, extraction, materialism that sort of pervade all of our systems, right? That dominate the way that we live. And so an alternative to that, when you really deepen into that question, becomes things like animism. We really embrace that the earth is alive, that the rocks are alive, the trees are alive. And this is indigenous knowledge wisdom, that's been around for millennia, but we've forgotten, right? So when we remember that, as those of us who've been raised like myself in the dominant Western culture, blessed to live in a place like Hawaii, where there is the native Hawaiian culture to remind us of that animism, the whole world shifts, right? When we start to see the world as alive, something else becomes alive within us. And then we actually get to reimagine community as something beyond the human. And actually, the more than human becomes part of our community. And the alternative way of living becomes something beyond just the human way of living. It's actually a dialogue with, in relationship to, and an interbeing or interdependence with all of the more than human around us, right? And that's this great remembering that I feel is happening in this time, as systems that we've come to believe are so solid, we see are actually really, dissolving very quickly around us. And I think that is needing to happen. And so what's really exciting is as that's happening, all of these alternative ways of living that actually, are rooted in ancient ways of being are starting to emerge and gain momentum. And so as things dissolve around it, those start to rise up, right? So groups like this and spaces like this are so incredibly important. And some of the core pieces I see in my experience here in Hawaii, which again, I'm so blessed to be here because there's a really vibrant native culture that is really intact and rooted and has been building for many years. The overthrow happened in 1893. Since the 100-year anniversary of the overthrow, there's been a lot of really focused work on what we might call biocultural restoration. So the Native Hawaiian peoples had incredible sustainable ways of living, and they've been bringing a lot of that back in places where they can. So I shared an example in my recording that I offered to you in a place here in Hawaii called Papahanaukua'ola, which basically was a dump site. People had dumped cars, trash, all this stuff on this incredibly beautiful sacred land up near the mountains with water flowing through it. It had originally been lo'ikalo, which is the Native Hawaiian taro, which is a staple food. So a group came in and cleaned up that land using, intergenerational supports, all together, clearing out all the trash and garbage, and then replanting the lo'i. And you go there now and you can't even believe that just a few years ago, this place was covered in trash because it's vibrant, it's thriving. There's literally like water bubbling up from the earth. That's the cleanest water you can imagine. Kids coming together. Alana spoke to the intergenerational weaving, and also Makhadzi spoke to the challenges, opportunity. And it's like I'm seeing that happen with the interweaving of place-based wisdom, earth-based knowledge, and this understanding that we're all connected. So it's like all of those things are starting to weave together in this question of what is the alternative to what we've been given. And the other thing I want to share is about kids. And, I'm a mother of two. My kids are now 12 and 14. And I was blessed with the opportunity of the pandemic to start homeschooling, which was something I had not thought I would do. And I ended up doing it for about 5 years. And what I learned in that experiment, as a futurist, I understand that the public school system was built to create factory workers, so kids who are ready to go to factories. And so what I understood in this blessed experiment I was given the opportunity to do with my children was to see that when they were given the space to be themselves, to ground in who they actually are, to have multi-generational learning with their elders, with peers of different ages, not in a classroom setting, mostly out in nature, the grounding in their being and their ability to weather the storms of uncertainty that we're facing right now is profound. Now that they're, now 14 and 12, I can see this starting to bubble through them as becoming young adults. And so I encourage us to, in whatever way, in whatever young people we have in our lives, to offer them the ability to ground in themselves through experiences in nature, through understanding their own curiosity and creativity, through allowing them the free thinking to think outside of the system, to question what's actually happening. Because that's, the youth coming through that's able to see the systems in this way. And like you shared, the somatic experience, the lived embodied experience of what it's like to be in alternative ways of living, connecting with elders and intergenerational wisdom, connecting with the animate earth. All of that starts to build their ability to imagine new alternatives, even beyond what we could see, right? So that's like the investment in the futures that we're growing together. So I feel like those are some of the ways that I see cultures of care emerging. And yeah, thank you for the opportunity to share. There's so much more I could talk about, but I'm so grateful to be here. Appreciate you, Kiamo.
Thank you so much, Aubrey. And we still have more conversation to have.
Yeah.
So appreciate that sharing. And yeah, I really appreciate what you mentioned around just the complexity of raising children in a system. And I think a lot of the indoctrination around if you're not sending your child to the school, you're an irresponsible parent. And as a mother myself, I'm also in that process of exploring and really appreciating that our kids also bloom when they learn from their parents, which is also a natural way of being. We're raising them, and therefore we should be able to raise them with the things that they would ultimately learn in school. But yeah, that really stood out for me, and I appreciate that amongst everything that has been mentioned already. Awesome. Okay. And our last speaker is Sinethemba Mtshali, who is based in Centurion, South Africa. She is our youth. Sinethemba is a social impact entrepreneur, a visionary, a systems creator, dedicated to advancing a liberated and regenerative Africa. Rooted in African wisdom and a deep curiosity about life's interconnectedness, Sinethemba invites young people to remember that abantu noma bahla people of the earth are one. Oh, sorry, I butchered that isiZulu. My apologies. Through her work, she encourages youth to reclaim their innate creativity, their agency, and responsibility as stewards for our planet and the people. So I will hand over to you, Sinethemba.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Kiamo. And yeah, it's fine. We're all learning Venda. We're learning Zulu. That's what this is about, right? We're doing this. It works. It's fine. Thank you to everyone for even creating the space. Everybody's presence, right, is what allows us to create this wisdom that we are all witnessing here today. When as the other speakers were saying, when this question was posed, this alternative ways of living, alternative to what, like Alana was saying, sustainability also, I think for me, whenever we had examples of sustainability in the African context, it was actually just a means of survival. And from this system that we have been living in, this extractive system, if we glorify these systems of survival, then our people never have an opportunity to thrive. So when I was, learning about recycling in school, learning about green initiatives, I'd look at home and be like, no, man, this is already happening. But it doesn't come from a place of conservation. It comes from a place of survival. I really started to question, and say, okay, what does this mean then if we are moving towards a more sustainable system? Are we then going to continue to survive under the tyranny of whatever new system we have? So, when I was thinking about this, I wanted to share just from my perspective, the unlearning that I saw my own mother go through. So my mom and I always laugh about the fact that, she was born in 1960 and she's in her 60s now, but like the first computer came in her lifetime and AI came in her lifetime. Like so many technological advancements have come in this 60 years. Like so much has happened really, if you think about it. And her idea of what she wanted for her life has also changed. First it was to get a degree, go abroad, come back. Now she wants to have her own garden. So like the unlearning that I watched her go through was very important for me to understand the timeline of where we are in the world. We come from, our ancestors, Mopo, as Makhadzi was saying, from understanding, being so close with nature, and then we have the era of colonialism that separated us from that, and then brought in consumerism and gave us new dreams, that the dreams that you had before don't have them, have these ones now. And then that generation being like, oh, wait, so disillusioned by that and saying, no, I don't think this is actually what's valuable. What is valuable is what we had. And it's very hard for that generation to pass it now on to us and say, okay, guys, let's go back there. I'm not entirely sure where there is, but I want us to go back there. And the honesty and humility in saying, let's be curious about where we come from. Let's be curious about what we once knew. Is so eye-opening for me as a young person and what I really crave, instead of starting new initiatives, just to learn and observe, like Makhadzi was saying, observe and try. The young people don't have an opportunity to observe and try anymore. It's, if you are a young person in this space, it's always, oh, you have the answers, you figure it out. And then it's like, but how am I supposed to know? Where do I know this from? But I do think young people have an inherent wisdom to reimagine, as Aubrey was saying. It's like once we've been given something, we look at it and we say, okay, no, but I feel that there's a better way to do this thing, or maybe there's a new way to do this. So instead of trying to completely change another system to make it like the old one, we're actually at a time where we're reimagining a whole new paradigm. There's a whole new possibility of how humans and the earth can coexist. And that's the energy I want young people to feel again, like the excitement to say that you do have a future to steward. I believe that we're the generation that's called to build in the ruins. As the old world is dying, we're supposed to be planting seeds for a newer world and knowing how to be the gardeners of those seeds, And unfortunately, the only way to learn this wisdom is by doing. You can't sit anywhere. You can't ask anyone. You can't Google this information. You have to do it. And just encouraging young people to say yes to the call, to say yes to something different, to something that you don't fully understand, has always been something that's been very close to my heart. And, to really learn, and not only from the physical elders that we see on the earth, but like the trees, nature that have been around for billions of years. If we think about the history of colonialism and slavery, it's only 400 years of our lifetime, 400 to 500 years. The earth has been orbiting for millions. They know what's happening here. And for us to learn and ask from them and connect with that wisdom, I think is what we're honestly all here to do at this time. That's what we're called to do. So yeah, that's all for me.
Thank you so much. Wow, powerful youth voice, and I love how it just so blends with a lot of what Makhadzi was saying. It means we're on the right track. We're onto something. Wow. Wow, what a powerful conversation. And I would love for us to just maybe take a moment to pause and sit with the information, the perspectives that have been shared. The chat has been very busy, very active, and in fact, maybe as we go into this next part, which will basically be a discussion between Makhadzi and Aubrey and Alana and Sinethemba, where we're able to explore this a little bit more, I'd love to pose a question that was mentioned in the chat and see how that may land with us. This question comes from Puni Mudli, who is also an incredible, I don't know if I can call you an elder, Puni, I hope that's okay. I'm not being offensive or anything, but she is really, really an incredible human being and has been a mentor to me as well. She asks, how do we bridge the gap between the past, present, and future between generations? With the challenges that we face in South Africa and Africa, with youth unemployment, disillusionment, and being tech savvy, yet we have the highest number of youth. How are we going to bring these worlds together in an inspiring and flourishing way? So maybe I'd like to start stirring the pot with that question. I'm just going to see how we can bring this tech to do the things. But yes, please, anybody who would like to speak, please go ahead if it's alive for you.
Well, I can speak a little bit to the work you're doing, Kiamo, because I think that's a core focus of your mission here on Earth is youth activation, and a lot of what you've been doing to bring youth together. Oh, I think because maybe Alana, if you mute really quick. There we go. Bring youth together in different spaces and give them ways to connect and network and inspire each other and get activated, in community and get out into the land and do work. All of that feels really important. So creating spaces, I loved what Sinethemba talked about, like building the new worlds from the ashes of the old. I speak about it that way a lot, that there's this like, and ash is amazing compost, right? So there's like so much richness in ash, and we're making like fertile soil from that. So creating spaces where youth can come together and have their free thinking and see that there's more people out there that are thinking like them, that are having these different ideas, and giving spaces to actually try it out. And there's so much need everywhere, as Puni was saying, like there's, the world falling apart and the people who are suffering. And, and Makhadzi talked about this too. The challenge is the opportunity, right? So where is their challenge? How do we bring youth together, network them, give them the sense of being not alone, not isolated, and then get excited about ideas that they're having, get to actually bring them out into community in relationship with elders and those who may be experiencing challenge, and then, try out innovation. So I feel like that's what you've really been focused on, Kiamo, and just celebrating that work you've been doing and creating fellowships and spaces for that to happen, because that feels like what's needed right now.
I thank you so much, Aubrey. Good to know we're on the right track. And I also want to say that I think everybody in this room just showing up is also doing that work. And I'd love to pay forward that incredible compliment to the rest of us, because showing up is also the work being done. And I just would love to give everybody just a round of applause, a hug, whatever sense of community, affection, just to say thank you. So I'd love to hear from anybody else if you would like to perhaps answer that question, or even have a question for each other in the room around this topic.
I'm touched by this question of bringing the past, present, and the future. This is the reality which the younger generation are also searching to find that path. It's time to pause on writing. Yes, young people document, right? But we need to create the space of practice where young people will be there to observe and feel present by the way that facilitation is happening, not instructing or telling the story like long, long ago there was a lion. The practical space, make a space for young people to observe, and through observation they feel present. And when they feel that present, they engage. And when they engage, they become participation. They participate, vajenelela, valingeta. And this place called forest, indigenous forest here, is the best classroom more than any other classroom. Let's bring the elders and the youth in the forest.
And as we return, yes, thank you, Makhadzi. All of this is also making me think about the Akan ancient Ghanaian symbol of Sankofa, which is a principle that speaks to going back to fetch it. And in order to build new worlds, we have to start with ourselves. And that means understanding who we are, where we come from, whether it's our lineage, whether it's the stories that make us. Even just thinking about the last 10 generations that it took to make us, that's 4,092 people whose love stories, whose connections, different lands and all of that have brought you into this moment right here as you. And so I thank you so much for that, Makhadzi. There is a question in the chat from Amogelang Pila Ditlale. She says, thank you for the flow of this conversation and the depth that it presents. I'm curious to explore how many of you are able to sustain a relationship with nature, working with the soil regardless of landlessness, which can be metaphored as being wombless. What are the different ways to connect with animism in whatever space or time we're in? So I'm not sure, Alana, if you'd like to speak to that. Sinethemba, anybody?
I can start speaking to that. And that question feels particularly close to me as someone who works in agriculture, but I'm not a farmer. And I it often brings up the question for other people or for myself, like, should I be farming? Should I be looking for ways to be in closer proximity with the land itself? And for me, that has been food and water and the clothes that I wear. And it brings it back to what was mentioned about these spaces for practice where we can be witness to different ways of doing things, and tying it back to food again. um, to me, that's been very clear in the kitchen. Like when we get to be together in the kitchen and have conversation and just witness the way that different people are moving through the space and what ingredients are being used, because it's what's in season, what's available. So I think when we start noticing everything that's around us, it becomes very clear that it's everywhere. It's in the sunlight that comes through the window. It's in the salt that we grab with our fingers and stays there, that then gets to be part of the food and gets to nourish us in just so many ways. Not just in the fuel or the calories that come in, but in the conversations, in the spaces in between that we get to share with each other as humans and with the place that we are in. Um, so those are just some examples where I've been able to bring that to life without being on the farm or a forest always.
Yeah, I'd really like to add to that, Alana, because I think us as young people, a lot of what was given to the previous generation was like, to be successful is you have to move into urban areas, right? You have to climb up this ladder of capitalism. So most of our parents did well for themselves in that context, but then separated us from land, right? So I didn't grow up, Emakaya, which is like farmland, right? My parents grew up in a township and then they moved us to a suburb. So if you look at those economic conditions, my parents also didn't have access to land as well themselves. So even for me, I think the first idea, just understanding of land, was when my mom had her garden, right? And even I think that was her act of reconnecting, right? And in most townships, a lot of Black people do not have space to connect with the garden and the land, because it was intentional. And I think if we think about this old system that is dying, it was intentionally destructive. It is intentionally extractive. And it's also intentional that we are distracted and we're disconnected. That disconnection was intentional for us to not think about these things and not see each other as the land and not treat each other as the land. Because if we see each other as connected and see the land as connected to us, we would take care of it as if you're taking care of your own body, right? But for us to even just eat food that we actually don't even know where it comes from, like the context of a supermarket, like I saw the other day, I think the blueberries were imported from Spain. And like if you think about the fact that this came all the way from Spain, when there's so much land here, when someone could be farming that land and sustaining themselves. So the first thing I think is just to be aware of the fact that we're not separated. Everything is connected. Once you bring that awareness to yourself that even the next person next to me is connected to me, and the land is connected to me, that's where we get the concept of Ubuntu, right? Ubuntu in the Southern African language of Zulu, that we are one. I am because you are. For me, that's what made the connection. When I realized sustainability and climate change is actually just about the fact that we are connected, and it's like what Ukiamo was saying, that is abantu nomhlaba bahlangene, meaning that people and the earth are together. So just that paradigm and mind shift of connectedness is, you'll see that more opportunities to connect with the land will come as you walk through the world that way.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Aubrey.
one thing to add on that, because I love what you both were sharing. In Hawaii, we have a term called kilo, which means to notice or observe. And when I think about that, it's about noticing and observing what's around you. And even if you don't have much nature and you're totally in an urban situation, there's always nature busting through. So it might be something as simple as noticing the moon and starting to learn the moon phases. Like, what are the phases of the moon? How does your body feel in different phases? What's going on? Grass grows through concrete. Trees are planted in urban spaces. Start to notice the nature around you and how it's bubbling through, even when you feel like you're not in a place that's, quote, surrounded by nature. It's actually everywhere. And I think that, just simple practice of starting to kilo and notice what's around you and pay attention to how things change over time starts to reconnect you to deeper cycles that we've been disconnected from.
Thank you. Thank you. And what is actually really interesting about this conversation is that these are not really alternative ways of being. They're almost authentic ways of being because we're all drawing on lived experience in what we're doing. It's not far away. It's not something we have to reach for, like completely change our lifestyle. These are our authentic ways of being. And I'm sensing that as soon as we can return to our most authentic selves, our reality will reflect all of that. And with that said, my reality is so beautiful right now. I would love to thank all of our incredible speakers for showing up today, for holding this beautiful conversation with me. It's with all of us, sorry, not just me. But yeah, it's really, truly an honor. And the chat is going crazy. I love all the engagement that's happening. Please keep at it. And speakers, yeah, join the chat as well if you would like to speak to any additional thoughts, the works. Awesome. So next, before actually I get to the next point, we actually have a whole Green Action Week team that I have neglected to introduce. I just, first of all, just love to give a shout out to Hannah Harper, who is my co-champion in this, from strategy down to tech, who's here on the call. Thank you so much, Hannah. And then also to the Mycelia Media Collab team. We've got Steph Swanepoel on the call. We've got Natalie, who is going to share a little bit about the anthology of a sharing community through the Green Action Week campaign. So I'd love to hand over to you, please, Natalie. Thank you.
Thanks, Kiamo. And this has been such an inspiring conversation to listen to. Every single webinar I ever partake in for Green Action Week leaves me smiling hugely. And I just love the fact that there's a movement that does this work in such a positive way. It's really necessary work, and sometimes it can be hard going, but there's this joy and inspiration that carries through in the Green Action Week campaigns that just keeps one going. So we released the anthology of a sharing community recently in our last webinar, and I'm really excited to share about it. So sharing community is really about how people care for one another and the world around them by sharing what they already have. And this anthology follows the different pathways of knowledge, food, resources, culture, and responsibility. And it explores different stories from Green Action Week 2025 about how people are doing these different ways of sharing in practice and on the ground, and showing how this is it's a pathway to sustainable consumption. And that for sustainable consumption, we already have solutions, and that they already exist in local knowledge and everyday practices. And I love the way this anthology shows about how it's about collaboration, and it's about building a different kind of abundance within communities and supporting everyone to rise together while caring for the planet. So it's not about extraction, it's actually about that we can all be abundant and we can all thrive when we share. And so this anthology is really an invitation. It's to see sharing community as something practical and something that we can all be part of. And it's a way to build a different kind of world that's based on sharing and caring rather than extraction. And so it's wonderful to speak about this in this webinar today because, yeah, this is our sharing community, all the people that are here today. And so please go online. Hannah, if you can share the link in the chat, it's on the greenactionweek.org/stories. And then also just check out the rest of the the Green Action Week site to see how, if you don't know about the campaign, how you can actually partake in the campaign, and we can build more and more sharing communities around the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalie. I appreciate that so much. And also, as an extension to welcome more people to our community, we are actually holding a youth-focused session. Excuse elders, sorry, this one is for the youth to get together, to get to know each other. And yes, next week we are going to have a really cool youth networking session. So please, you can pull out your phone right now, scan the QR code to register. We want to connect youth from all over the world, hear more youth perspectives, and really elevate our voices in a way that they can start taking up space in the places that they need to. So yes, we've got our next session coming up next week, same time, same place, specifically to youth. And we will also share this on our social media as well. And if you are a young person, we also would love for you to join our WhatsApp group, where we have another beautiful collective of youth. We share a lot of what's going on in this work that we're doing. So may it be opportunities, ways to collaborate, interesting case studies, whatever it is that can enrich our work, especially as young people. It is a very exciting WhatsApp group, and again, another way to have more intimate community. So again, pull out your phone, scan the QR code, join the WhatsApp group. And yeah, I think our elders, we will find a way to bring this intergenerational collective together. But we do appreciate your presence here in the room. Okie dokie, and I cannot believe we have reached the end of the hour. It has been truly, truly incredible and an honor being here with every single one of you. And again, thank you from anywhere in the world that you're showing up. It means everything. This is the work being done. And we are becoming conscious creators. That is what our reality, that's how we were going to build worlds, as being conscious creators as a collective, starting with ourselves so that we can feed the whole. So we give thanks. We'll see you at the next session. And I'm not sure if there's anything else. Oh, we've also got a feedback form that's been posted in the chat there by Hannah. We'd love to know how the session landed for you, if it's valuable. Obviously, we would love to continue having more conversations like this. But we do have a feedback form in the chat that we'd love for you to click the link and share your thoughts. But for now, it is adios from me and all of us. I'm wishing you a wonderful day ahead, evening, afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. And let us rise as a collective. We give thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.